Welcome to this captivating video on the topic, do certain nations deliberately cause economic downturns? Have you ever pondered if certain nations intentionally trigger economic recessions for their own benefit? While it may appear to be a conspiracy theory, the idea of a planned recession is a real concept that economists and politicians have debated for years. Picture a world where certain nations utilize economic crises to maintain their superiority over others, debilitate their competitors, or retain a competitive edge in international trade. Some individuals argue that it's already occurring and we must pay heed to the substantiating evidence. In this video, we'll explore the concept of a planned recession, the rationales why some people perceive it's transpiring, and the evidence that corroborates with this notion. We'll also scrutinize the counter-arguments and their implications for the global economy. So relax, grab a cup of coffee, and let's delve into this enthralling topic. Number 1. The idea of a planned recession. The concept of a planned recession involves the idea that some countries may intentionally cause economic downturns to achieve specific economic goals. There are various ways in which countries can manipulate their economy to create a recession, such as adjusting interest rates, deflating the value of their currency, or even intentionally causing a financial crisis. The idea of a planned recession is not new, and it's been debated among economists and politicians for decades. Supporters of this theory argue that some countries may plan a recession to maintain their economic dominance over others. By creating a recession, they can weaken the economies of their competitors, making it easier for them to maintain their position in the global economy. For instance, a country with a strong economy may plan a recession to keep its competitors from catching up to its economic growth. A recession may weaken the economies of other countries and make it more difficult for them to invest in their infrastructure and development, allowing the dominant country to maintain its lead. Another potential reason why a country may plan a recession is to address certain economic imbalances within its own economy. For instance, a country may experience high inflation rates, and a recession can help to bring inflation under control. In this case, the country may intentionally cause a recession as a means of implementing austerity measures to reduce inflation. There are several examples from history that support the idea of a planned recession. One of the most famous examples is the Great Depression of the 1930s. Many economists believe that the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, intentionally raised interest rates and tightened the money supply, leading to a severe recession that lasted for over a decade. Some argue that this was done to consolidate the power of the Federal Reserve and strengthen the US economy at the expense of other countries. Another example is the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s. Some economists argue that this crisis was caused by the intentional manipulation of currency values by certain countries in the region. By artificially deflating their currency, these countries were able to gain a competitive edge over their neighbors, leading to a destabilization of the region's economy. While the idea of a planned recession may seem alarming, it's essential to consider the evidence and arguments both for and against this theory. In the next part, we'll explore the evidence that supports the idea of a planned recession. In recent years, there have been concerns about the potential for another planned recession due to the growing economic tensions between certain countries. For example, the ongoing trade war between the US and China has led to fears that the two superpowers may intentionally cause a recession to gain an advantage over each other. Additionally, some experts have pointed to the recent rise in economic nationalism and protectionism as evidence that some countries may be looking to intentionally cause a recession to benefit their own economy. These policies can lead to a reduction in international trade and investment, which can ultimately harm the global economy. While there may be evidence to support the idea of a planned recession, it's important to remember that economic downturns can have devastating effects on individuals and communities. Therefore, it's essential for governments and international organizations to work together to promote economic stability and growth for all countries, rather than engaging in policies that benefit only a select few. In the next part, we'll explore the arguments against the idea of a planned recession. While the idea of a planned recession may seem like a conspiracy theory, there is evidence to support the notion that some countries may intentionally cause economic downturns for their own benefit. One piece of evidence supporting this idea is the fact that governments and central banks have the tools to manipulate the economy. Central banks can adjust interest rates and the money supply, while governments can implement policies such as austerity measures and tax hikes. By using these tools, countries can influence the economy and potentially cause a recession. Another piece of evidence is the fact that some countries have a history of manipulating their currency to gain a competitive advantage. For instance, China has been accused of artificially deflating the value of its currency to make its exports cheaper and gain a competitive edge in the global market. Moreover, some economists argue that certain economic policies can lead to a recession and that some countries may intentionally adopt these policies to achieve their economic goals. For example, austerity measures, which involve cutting government spending and raising taxes, can lead to a recession in the short term. However, they can also help to address long-term economic imbalances and reduce inflation. Additionally, some experts argue that countries may use a recession as a way to consolidate their power and strengthen their economy. For instance, during the Great Depression, the US government and Federal Reserve were able to strengthen their position in the global economy by implementing policies that helped the US recover from the recession. This allowed the US to become the dominant economic power in the post-World War II era. While there is some evidence supporting the idea of a planned recession, it's essential to consider the arguments against this theory. In the next part, we'll examine the counter-arguments to the idea of a planned recession. One of the primary arguments against the idea of a planned recession is the complexity and unpredictability of the global economy. Many factors can contribute to a recession, including changes in consumer behavior, natural disasters, and political events. Therefore, intentionally causing a recession can be challenging as it requires the manipulation of multiple variables that are difficult to control. Furthermore, causing a recession can have severe consequences for a country's reputation and international relations. Countries that intentionally cause a recession may face backlash from other nations and damage their standing in the global community. Additionally, a recession can lead to social unrest and political instability, making it a risky strategy for any government to pursue. In conclusion, while the idea of a planned recession may seem plausible given historical examples and current economic tensions, it's essential to consider the complexity and unpredictability of the global economy. While some evidence supports the idea that some countries may plan a recession to achieve economic goals, there are also compelling arguments against this theory. Ultimately, it's essential to focus on developing policies that promote economic stability and growth for all countries rather than benefiting a select few. Number 3. Arguments against the idea of a planned recession. While there is some evidence to support the notion that some countries may intentionally cause economic downturns, there are also arguments against this theory. One of the main counter-arguments is that a recession is a complex phenomenon that's difficult to predict and control. While governments and central banks may have tools to influence the economy, there are many factors that can contribute to a recession, such as global economic conditions, natural disasters, and political instability. Therefore, it's challenging to intentionally cause a recession without risking severe consequences. Another argument against the idea of a planned recession is that the global economy is interconnected, and a recession in one country can have ripple effects on the global economy. Therefore, it's not in any country's interest to intentionally cause a recession, as it can harm their own economy in the long term. Moreover, some experts argue that countries may not have the incentive to intentionally cause a recession, as it can harm their reputation and credibility in the international community. A country that is seen as intentionally causing a recession may face criticism and pushback from other countries, leading to a loss of trust and respect. Some economists argue that it's not in a country's interest to cause a recession, as it can lead to political instability and social unrest. A severe recession can lead to high unemployment rates, inflation, and poverty, which can cause public anger and protest. Therefore, it's unlikely that a country would intentionally cause a recession unless it is necessary to address a severe economic crisis. While there is some evidence supporting the idea of a planned recession, there are also arguments against this theory. It's essential to consider both the evidence for and against this idea to gain a nuanced understanding of this complex phenomenon. Ultimately, regardless of whether a recession is planned or not, the impact on individuals and communities can be devastating. The effects of a recession can be long-lasting, leading to increased inequality, social and political instability, and a reduction in living standards for many people. Therefore, it's crucial for governments and international organizations to prioritize policies that promote economic stability and growth for all, rather than engaging in short-sighted strategies that benefit a select few. Furthermore, in today's interconnected global economy, the actions of one country can have far-reaching consequences for others. Therefore, cooperation and collaboration between countries is essential to promote economic stability and growth. This includes the promotion of free and fair trade, responsible fiscal policies, and investment in education and infrastructure. By working together, countries can build a more resilient and sustainable global economy that benefits all people rather than just a select few. In conclusion, the idea of a planned recession is a controversial one that's been debated among economists and politicians for many years. While there is evidence to support the idea that some countries may plan a recession to achieve economic goals, there are also many arguments against it. Ultimately, whether a recession is planned or not, it is essential to focus on developing policies that promote economic stability and growth for all countries rather than benefiting a select few. Thank you for watching.